My world turned upside down the day my mum told me she was leaving my dad. I was just a kid. I remember Dad packing his bags, his eyes all red. Those weekends were my everything. We'd go to the park, make his famous pancakes for breakfast. He was my hero. Then the calls started going unanswered. The weekend plans got canceled one after another. Something came up, my mum would say, her voice always a little too cheerful. I didn't understand. I'd cry myself to sleep, thinking I'd done something wrong. Did Dad not love me anymore? The confusion and the hurt were just overwhelming. It took me years to piece together the real reason. It wasn't about Dad not wanting to see me. It was about money. The less he saw me, the more he had to pay. It was a cold, hard calculation. My mum was trading my time with my dad for a bigger check each month. My heart. But how could he? Was supposed to protect children. He couldn't afford the lawyers, the court fees. He was trapped, and I was his prison. It felt like she was using me as a weapon against him, and the worst part was, she was winning. This isn't just my story. It's happening to countless families right now. Parents are using their children as leverage, forgetting that behind the numbers and legal battles are little hearts that are breaking. We need to talk about this. It's time we stand together and make sure no other child has to wonder if their parents' love was sold to the highest bidder.
Welcome, truth seekers, conspiracy hunters, and all you brave souls who dare to question the narratives fed to us by the powers that be. This is the Evident Conspiracy Files, the podcast where we peel back the layers of deception, connect the hidden dots, and expose the evident conspiracies that lurk in the shadows of everyday life. I'm your host, Mark Mayhew, a man who's been through the ringer of these very systems we're about to discuss today. And today's episode is simply a must-know. We're diving deep into what many are calling the UK's most insidious, under-the-radar scandal since the infamous Post Office Horizon affair. We're talking about the Child Maintenance Service, the CMS for short. This isn't just another bureaucratic mishap of a few isolated cases of bad luck. Oh no. This is the sprawling web of corruption, blatant gender bias, systematic failures, and outright human devastation that's tearing families apart, bankrupting hardworking parents, predominantly fathers, and driving many to the brink of despair, or worse. Picture this. A government agency that's supposed to ensure children are financially supported by both parents after separation. Sounds noble, right? But what if I told you it's morphed into a machine that defaults to assuming fathers are deadbeats, incentivizes mothers to limit contact for financial gain, slaps on ridiculous fees that smell suspiciously like profit, and self-regulates in a way that screams cover-up?
Welcome back, flesh bags. If you are a slightly woke lefty, this episode may upset you. Please feel free to turn off and continue watching the BBC for all your fake news.
We're talking fabricated arrears, unauthorised wage deductions, links to mental health crises and suicides, and a charity like Gingerbread that's pushing an agenda that seems to forget fathers even exist. And yes, we'll weave into the real stories from the trenches, accounts from fathers on platforms like X, who have been cut off from their kids, buried under mountains of legal fees, and left penniless by the CMS enforcements. These are patterns, Evidence of a conspiracy that's bigger than the post office scandal because it affects millions of families every day, hidden in plain sight. But before we plunge into the abyss, let me remind you, this is the Evident Conspiracy Files. We do not just report, we investigate, we challenge, and we empower you to see the truth for yourself. If you're a parent ensnared by this nightmare, or if you're just outraged by injustice, stick around. Share this episode, because the more eyes on this, the harder it is for them to keep it buried. And if you're tuning in for the first time, smash that subscribe button on YouTube, Apple Podcasts, Spotify, or whatever button it is where you get your podcasts. And we will be back for more. Leave us a review, tell us your stories. We read them all. Now let's get into it, shall we?
If the CMS were a fairy tale, it'd be the one where the big bad wolf dresses up as grandma. But instead of eating you, it just devours your bank account. Child support, they say? More like parent. Extortion. Carry on, Mark. I'll be lurking in the shadows.
Thanks, Grim. You always know how to lighten the mood or darken it, depending on the perspective. Alright, let's start at the very beginning. Because to understand the monster that is the CMS today, we need to trace its origins, its mutations, and its rebrandings that feel less like evolution and more like a desperate attempt to escape a tainted past. This isn't just history, it's the foundation of the conspiracy, the evidence that shows how a system meant to help has been twisted into something far more sinister. The story kicks off back in 1993 with the establishment of the Child Support Agency, or CSA, under the Child Support Act of 1991. On paper, it was a grand idea from the Conservative government of the time. Ensure that absent parents, typically fathers in the social narrative, contribute financially to their children's upbringing. The goal? Reduce reliance on state benefits, promote responsibly, and put kids first. But almost immediately the cracks appeared. By the mid-1990s, reports were flooding in about administrative chaos. Faulty IT systems that couldn't handle the load, inaccurate assessments based on flawed data, and enforcement that was either too lax or brutally overzealous. Parents again, mostly fathers, were hit with demands for payment that didn't match their incomes, leading to arrears piling up like snow in a blizzard. Fast forward to the early 2000s, and the National Audit Office was slamming the CSA in report after report. They highlighted inefficiencies that cost taxpayers millions, with over $3 billion in uncollectible but technically fictional arrears by 2017. Historical critics focused on poor enforcement, where non-paying parents got away scot-free, whilst compliant ones were hounded relentlessly. But was it just incompetence, or was there something more corrupt at play? Whistleblowers and campaign groups started whispering about systematic biases, where the agency seemed predisposed to believe receiving parents' claims without verification, leading to fabricated debts and unauthorised actions. In 2008, the government tried a facelift. The CSA was replaced by the Child Maintenance and Enforcement Commission, which promised better tools for enforcement, like deducting from benefits or even seizing passports. But the EMEC was a flop, short-lived and ineffective. By 2012, it was abolished, and its functions were folded into the newly minted Child Maintenance Service, CMS, under the Department for Work and Pensions. Official spin: this was all about encouraging family-based arrangements, simplifying processes, and reducing state intervention. They claimed it would promote direct arrangements between parents, with the CMS as a last resort for calculations and collections. The key there is as a last resort. But let's call it what it is, a rebranding to bury the scandals. The CSA's reputation was toxic. Stories of parents driven to suicide, families torn apart, and a system that profited from conflict. Official sources never explicitly say corruption was the reason for the change, but the historical records scream it. Inefficiencies, sure. Poor enforcement, okay. But outright fraud. Personal accounts paint a darker picture. And here's where my own story comes in, as a stark example of how this conspiracy has ruined lives from the start. And when I realised the fraud here, well, that's one of the reasons I started this show. I've been down many rabbit holes, but none have f***ed me off like this one. One that allows evil women to weaponise their kids for money.
Oh, bloody.
Back in 2011, I was a regular guy working hard to support my family, even after separation, after my ex's affair. I had no idea about the CSA, hadn't received a single notification, no letter, no email, nothing. I was paying my ex in cash, which was a time before it was easy or even standard to electronically send money to someone else. We both agreed the amount would suffice. And if she needed more, I'll do my best to provide what my children needed whilst in her care. And of course, being a bloke, I wouldn't ask nor expect her money whilst they was in my care. However, my ex had applied to the then CSA behind my back, and suddenly, while I had my 3 daughters staying with me, over £700 was stolen straight from my wages in one brutal swoop. Poof, gone. That left me with nothing. Scrambling to pay bills, buy food, keep a roof over our heads. I tried everything to get it back, calls, letters, pleas, but the system, it stonewalled me at every turn. They reviewed themselves, of course, under the DWP umbrella and found nothing wrong. I could not prove I'd given her money. It was cash. I thought money was money. All they had to do was let me know about her contact, and that being the start date of the monitored pay dates, when I should send said amount to her, logged with a reference number. But no, she received my money in cash over months, then logged a claim for non-payment with no warning. Bang, she got paid again. This is theft. I couldn't give a shit what they want to call it. That's not efficiency, folks. It's corruption. It's fraud. Theft by government agency that's supposed to protect families, paid for by families. But it didn't stop there. My ex cut me off from my daughters and then upped the claim entirely. No reason other than spite and monetary gain. Until, that is, she separated from a fling after he cheated on her. Irony. After that, I could see my children again, while she flung off at weekends to have fun. Until she had met another Mr. Right. Well, this time, Mr. Right, it appears, was on the same page. The greedy bastards cut me off again. For more money. She even told me outright she'd financially ruin me. Through the grueling family court proceedings, where I had no financial choice but to represent myself, she had a solicitor paid for her by you, the taxpayer, even though it was of her own doing. The magistrate acknowledged her history, the drug use, severe mental health issues, a few recorded suicide attempts, but the judge dismissed it as historical and granted her the lives with order. So in the eyes of the CMS, I'm forever the paying parent, even with a court order for just under 50-50 shared care. In the past, whenever she needed me, I was there. I supported her through all the good and the bad times. She had never worked. The burden was mine, and mine alone. But that's what good fathers do, right? Yet the lying narcissistic ex in this case gets a lives with order. But does the CMS honour the work I've put into raising my family and the fact I actually want my kids at least 50-50? No. My ex claims the kids don't spend as much time with me, and suddenly I have to prove it to them. Calendars, witnesses, the works, and a court order I already have, yet they refuse to accept. They want evidence from me, but take her word at face value. Hey, it's not as though they can make money from me, is it? Oh, wait. And because she's requested a deductions of earning order, they're docking my pay automatically because I didn't respond fast enough. And they can't apparently undo it. So adding that 20% fee on top of what they want and deducting 4% from her, netting the CMS 24% profit on my money I've already paid taxes on. Then the false arrears keep piling up. Ones they can't even prove exist, but they enforce anyway, whilst bullshitting a MP who kindly copy and paste their replies as you continue to get f***ed. It's a vicious cycle designed to break you. This rebranding from CSA to CMS wasn't reform, it was a smokescreen. The problems persisted. Inherited fake debts from the old system never existed. Miscategorised in up to 45% of cases as per 2024 to 2025 emissions. Whistleblowers like Noel Wilcox have come forward with tales of unauthorised wage deductions without prior contact, calling it a straight-up fraudulent practice. On X, the platform where voices can't be silenced quite as easily, users are raging about it being a criminal-ran system that's causing undue hardship through due process. Legally, these actions could violate procedural fairness under UK administrative law, but the DWP insists DEOs follow statutory guidelines requiring evidence of non-payment first. Yet in practice, notice is often skimpy. 28 days at best, but in my case and many others, 0. Self-review under DWP. It's criticised for lacking independence, potentially enabling unchecked errors that border on corruption. Seriously, they review themselves. Think about it another way. A criminal takes himself to court and assesses his own actions, then finds himself not guilty. Same thing here, only they also control the media. The government won't make itself look inept, so you just won't hear about them causing harm to parents and therefore children.
We've laid the historical groundwork, but now let's dissect the beast itself. The key controversies and allegations that make the CMS a conspiracy magnet. This is where the rubber meets the road. At the core is how the CMS calculates child maintenance payments. It's supposed to be based on the paying parent's gross income, pulled directly from HM revenue and customs data to avoid disputes. Though, think about it, gross income. No one actually receives their gross pay. They get net pay after tax and national insurance, deductions, etc. But by basing CMS payments on gross, they can deduct more from the paying parent, making it more unaffordable and more likely to get you with enforcement action and make an additional 24% tax-free. Adjustments are made for the number of children and shared care arrangements. For one child, it's typically 12% of your gross income. For two, 16% of your gross income. 3 or more, at a massive 19% of your gross income. So again, think about it. The receiving parent, usually the mother, as in 95% of cases under the CMS umbrella. They receive child tax credit, child benefit, and up to 19% of your hard-earned money tax-free. However, then come the reductions for overnight stays, which are banded in a way that's ripe for abuse. Let's break it down slowly, because this is crucial. The shared care bands are as follows. If the child spends 0 to 51 nights a year with the paying parent, no reduction. Full payment is required. 52 nights to 103 nights. A1 is 7th reduction, about 14% of the figure they say you owe. 100 for to 155 nights. 2 7th reduction, around 29%. 156 to 174 nights. 3 7th, roughly 43%. And finally, 175 or more, a 50% reduction. So let's say the CMS come up with a random figure like mine at one point. At £1,000 per month, the mother will still receive £500. Now let's say you make £15 per hour before tax, i.e. gross. The mother will still receive over 33 hours of your life spent working. That's nearly a whole week of work, even though you both are basically at equal shared care. So you pay for your children in your own care, of course. So why are fathers expected to support the mother's lifestyle? How about mother up and support your own kids and stop expecting others to pay for your lifestyle? It might sound harsh, but it's true. There are some nasty fathers out there and turn their backs. Yes, the system should make them support their offspring, but remember, support is more than just about money. Support is being in their life, giving them a shoulder to cry on when they are sad. Support them through the good times and cheer them on. And that's where there are nasty mothers out there. They stop their children seeing their father for financial gain, and the system is designed to support them doing this. To be honest, it's not even the mother's fault. The system has taught them what they can and should expect. So they naturally expect your money and believe your child is better off with them. The only winner is, however, the system. Just stop for a moment and think about it. Your children are in your life. You've helped raise them, experiencing the good and bad times, but supported them in every way you could. Then without warning, without reason, you're not seeing your kids. Contact stops, following a lengthy 2-year court battle just to see your children again, while the mother is laughing all the way to the bank with your money. Your money you actually need to get to court and be properly represented. Where are all the feminists wanting equal rights with this one? None. Silence. Where are all the feminists worried about the mental health impact this has on the children? Even those who were simply told, your dad doesn't care about you. None. When mothers have been found to lie in court, and the judge builds time back with father, what punishment does the mother receive to deter her from doing it again? Well, there is no form of punishment. The mother can do it again. You won't know about it. The family court system is closed off to the public. These women have caused harm to their children. They are child abusers, but our system protects the abuser. Don't get me wrong, there are many, many good mothers out there that always put their children first. Some of them, sadly, have poor ex-partners and are single parents doing their best. But this episode focuses on the narcissistic mothers like my ex, who stopped contact for financial gain, made up lies that she truly believes to make her feel better about what she has done, and how the CMS under the DWP aids these abusers while profiting from children.
This has been a hard subject to cover. Memories I didn't really want to relive, but it's necessary to shine a light on this corruption. So back to the script for shared responsibility. Here's the conspiracy angle. The system defaults to assuming zero shared care unless the paying parent provides ironclad proof. This could be a court order that they can still reject. a detailed calendar of stays, agreement signed by both parties, and even school records. If the receiving parent contests it, say, by simply saying no, the kids don't stay that much, you're thrust into a dispute resolution process that's stacked against you. And those bans, they're absurdly broad. Why on earth does a parent with 52 nights get the exact same reduction as one with 103 nights, nearly double? The time spent caring for the child, double the expenses for food, activities, clothing, yet the financial adjustment is identical. This isn't fair. It's engineered to benefit the receiving parent, who in 95% of cases is the mother, according to official stats. It creates a perverse incentive, limit the father's access just enough to stay in a lower band, and you pocket more money. Parental alienation isn't just a side effect, it's built into the math. Studies and reports from fathers' rights groups like Families Need Fathers highlight this fuels conflict, turning co-parenting into a battlefield where money trumps the child's best interests. In my own saga, this played out horrifically, with a court order for just under 50-50, and that's approximately 182 nights a year. I should qualify for the maximum reduction, but the CMS ignores the order because my ex disputes the actual time. I have to prove to them, whilst they take her word. Well, how? They demand evidence, yet they reject it. Then they review themselves. Meanwhile, payments roll on at full tilt, with fees attached. It's a system that assumes guilt on the father's part, presuming minimal involvement unless proven otherwise. This bias isn't accidental. It's reflecting stereotypes that fathers are less nurturing or more likely to shrink responsibility. Now let's talk fees, the blood in the veins of this profit machine. In direct pay arrangements, where parents handle transfers themselves, no fees, but the CMS texts both parties regularly asking them to check if they're entitled to more, almost as if they're trying to upsell. But if it escalates to collect and pay, where CMS handles collection, often via DEOs from wages if the paying parent is a payee, they add 20% to the paying parent's amount and then deduct 4% from the overall what the receiving parent gets. The net gain for the CMS is 24% from the wages of the paying parent, removing what otherwise is family money. They insist these are administrative costs to cover enforcement, not profits, since the CMS is a self-stated non-profit government body. However, no matter how you look at it, it's still profit. But with automated systems, as a caseworker told me directly once, where an ex can switch to DEO online and it activates just after 3 days if they receive no response. Well, where's the human labour? The overhead, it's minimal. So automatically collecting £1,000, for example, as a DEO, is £240 profit, potentially per month. Yet Campaigner estimates put collection fees at 61.44 million in 2024 alone. That's a big profit taken from families. Official DWP accounts show CMS handling billions in transactions, with operational costs of around 1.2 billion annually. However, that's staff wages. These people work for the DWP, so they are paid for by the taxpayer and partly offset by these fees. The surplus. Critics argue it's a slush fund for the DWP, incentivizing more enforcement to generate revenue. Fraud and error run rampant too. Recent improvements include enhanced data matching with HMRC for income verification and automatic checks on arrears to fix miscategorizations, which affect about 45% of debts inherited from the CSA. The 2025 Public Authorities Fraud, Error and Recovery Bill aims to bolster detection across public sectors, including DWP services like the CMS. But with self-review under DWP, complaints start internally, escalate to the independent case examiner, then the parliamentary ombudsman. Independence is illusory. It's lawful under UK admin law for executive agencies, but judicial reviews have critiqued it for bias in calculations and enforcement. A 2025 parliamentary inquiry is examining fraud assessments and impacts on vulnerable groups like single parents. But will it lead to real change? It's doubtful, if history is any guide, as once again the focus is on single mothers and enforcement. And the human cost. The links to mental health crisis and suicides are chilling. Allegations tie CMS pressure to 20% of UK suicides. That's 1,000 to 2,500 fathers annually based on Freedom of Information data. Reports of depression, anxiety and suicidal thoughts from enforcement stress are widespread. The DWP denies any direct causation, claiming no evidence. But broader stats show rising mental health related deaths. 130,000 premature deaths among those with severe mental health illness from 2021 to 2023. On X, posts from ex-military and everyday dads describe breakdowns under the weight of false arrears and alienation. It's not just numbers, it's lives that are shattered.
CMS calculations. It's like trying to solve a Rubik's Cube blindfolded. Well, the cube fights back. One misplaced night and zap. Your finances are in the grave. But hey, at least the kids benefit. Or do they? Most of that money never gets tracked. What a joke, a deadly one.
Deadly indeed. Now let's bring this conspiracy to life. Let's hear the voices from the front lines. These are real people, real fathers sharing their nightmares on X. I've looked at the platform for accounts that echo the same patterns. Being cut off from their kids for no reason, facing crippling legal fees to fight back, and watching CMS deductions drain their accounts dry. These aren't cherry-picked. They're a flood of similar stories, evidence of systematic corruption. I've reached out to a few. Let's start with one. At Men's Rights. A veteran who's fighting tooth and nail. He posted, CMS are forcing me to sell my home over fictitious arrears. They know the debt is disputed but ignore case law. They're adding unlawful interest. It's criminal conversion. My kids stay with me, but CMS breaches the statutory duty to child welfare. They sell my £350,000 house for £260,000, then flip it for profit. This is bigger than the post office scandal. Imagine that. A war hero. He served his country, now homeless because of fake debts, legal fees to challenge. Thousands, whilst the CMS keeps deducting. Then there's two. At RB Jack 92, venting his frustration. He's posted, the Child Maintenance Service is a government corruption agency. How do you expect fathers to pay the money you're taking from our pockets? When will you means test both parents? How many more fathers need to take their lives before you act? He's cut off from his son. Legal battles costing him £10,000 so far, and CMS deductions leaving him on the edge. And 3, at Decount77, who tagged a politician in the following statement. You guys really need to look at the CMS DWP if you want to see abuse and corruption. Decent, hard-working fathers are being prevented from seeing their kids while the system milks every last penny from them. It's disgusting. He detailed being alienated for 2 years, court fees piling up to £15,000, all while paying full CMS despite shared care evidence that was ignored. And there's at Sierra Wood, a rare female voice calling out bias, who says, why are you only siding with the RP, the receiving parent? What about the RPs that alienate their children from fathers? What about the corruption the CMS has caused? The fraud and the suicides caused by this vile organisation? How about the deadbeat mothers who refuse to work? She's apparently supporting her brother, who's lost access to his daughters, with rising legal costs at over £20,000. I can understand the anger in that statement. And finally, at Willplum, on Father's Day, wrote this. How about Happy Father's Day to all the fathers whose lives have been destroyed by parental alienation and the UK's corrupted legal system and CMS. No fucker talks about it. His story. Ex cut him off. False allegations in court. £12,000 in fees. CMS arrears fabricated to £8,000 despite payments. Mothers receiving funds. 0 accountability. No requirement to prove the money goes to the kids. It could fund anything. Fathers often dip into their own pockets extra to ensure their children have what they need. Harsh as it sounds, if a mother chooses to leave without underlying safety reasons, she should bear the financial load if she limits contact. Or courts should default to equal shared care. It could be that simple. In my case, just greed. Yet family courts favoured her despite documented risks. The system protects the status quo, where mothers get presumption of primary care. Data backs this. Children thrive better with single dads. A 2022 study in MDPI's Children's Journal found similar behavioural outcomes. But single fathers provide stronger emotional support via Wainwright and Cummings' 2021 report. A Medium piece by family experts notes single father households have lower poverty rates, better academic performance for kids. UK stats from the Office of National Statistics show children with single mums face poorer cognitive and emotional outcomes. The Molly 2023 report. Boys in particular benefit from a male role model, reduced delinquency, better mental health, yet the narrative pushes mothers as a default. This leads us to Gingerbread, the so-called charity for single parents, registered as 230750. They offer advice, helplines, and policy advocacy to reduce poverty. But dig in. CEO Victoria Benson and her board that's about 70% women based on filings, and female heavy trustees. They seem to be feminist leaning. They spend their time focusing on enforcement while sidelining a father's importance. Their 2024 #FixTheCMS reports of demands for tougher pursuit of payments, highlighting the £690 million in arrears as economic abuse. They know 95% of payers are fathers, yet push for more powers to go to the CMS, ignoring how it fuels alienation and conflict, causing mental health issues to children. Have they lost sight of a balanced parenting approach? Obviously. Charities should champion kids' holistic needs, including active fathers, not just financial extraction from one side.
Gingerbread. Sounds wholesome like cookies at grandma's. But this lot, more like a poisoned chalice for dads. Pushing enforcement like it's candy, while fathers get the bitter end. If only they added a dash of fairness. But no, that's not in the recipe. Crunch time. It's time to stand together, unlike this little guy.
It's brilliant being a feminist. I can push causes without considering the repercussions, and I don't care what anyone thinks. Oh, and I love Keir Starmer. Lovely chap with a big wallet.
Now on to calls for reform and the whiff of cover-ups. Reform UK is at the forefront with high-profile pushes on GB News. Their March 2024 Reforming the CMS Armed Forces Special, at the time, featured leader Richard Tice and former MP Anne Widdecombe, spotlighting veterans hit by deductions, homes lost, lives upended. They highlighted government abandonment, demand transparency and efficiency, but allegations of media blackouts persist on X. Users claim pressure from higher-ups or lawyers to drop stories, fearing being libel or the backlash. My own MP, William Stone, I've reached out repeatedly, nothing from him personally, just canned responses from office staff. Obviously, there's too many cases. But MPs are supposed to oversee agencies like the CMS, especially those in Labour seats. They are in a position of power. However, this avoidance, it shouts cover-up, a conspiracy to silence the outcry, the illusion they are working for the people, but in reality, they're stealing from the people. The 2025 parliamentary inquiry probes fraud and error impacts on single parents. Ombudsman reports detail horrors. One father overpaid £8,500 due to CMS inaction. Judicial reviews slam operational flaws, including calculation biases. Comparisons to the post office scandal are apt. Self-regulation, denied injustice, victims are gaslit. Online, there is a clear pattern of injustice that also tallies up with my own experience, including getting shouted at by CMS staff whilst calling about your own case, getting put back in the same hour-long queue, only to be cut off when you finally reach someone. MPs that just copy and paste replies, even though they never answered any of the questions. In fact, they leave more questions than any answers. Why is there no intent for corrective action? To stop this conspiracy lens tipping to our one-sided rant, let's end with the official side from CMS and DWP per the gov.uk site. The CMS's purpose is clear. Ensure children receive financial support from both parents post-separation, prioritising child welfare. Options: private arrangements are encouraged, or CMS steps in for free calculations. Enforcement only if needed via DEOs from wages or benefits. Fees solely for collect and pay, covering admin costs, not profit motives. Calculations fair, based on income and verified share care. Complaints handled progressively. CMS team first, then review. MP involvement. ICE. Ombudsman. Oversight by DWP with NAO audits. On criticisms, improvements like data matching, reduce fraud, stats on payers reflect social norms, not biases. No proven link to suicides, but support referrals are offered. Reforms via the 2025 bill address inefficiencies. It's all for the children, they assert. A system evolving to help families. But after what we've uncovered, does it ring true? Or is it more spin in the conspiracy? You, the listener, decide. However, from my own experience, if you've been forced under the CMS, you know how they can screw over your and your children's lives. If you're battling CMS issues, start with a formal complaint. Call 0800 171 2345. Email or write to them. Escalate to ICE if unresolved. Involve your MP for pressure. Challenge calculations via mandatory reconsideration, then tribunal appeal. If you're struggling with mental health, contact the Samaritans 24/7 and Mind Info line at 0300 123 3393 or Calm at 0800 585 858. Debt helpline from Citizens Advice might be able to help. You can call them on 0800 144 8848. Remember, those numbers are for UK only. If you're alienated, seek family court variations. Join groups like Families Need Fathers. Don't isolate. Talk, seek therapy, build support networks. You're not alone. Together we can make change. Please reach out if you are struggling. That's our dive into the CMS conspiracy for now. We've unpacked the history, controversies, voices and more. The evidence demands action. Share your stories in the comments. We might feature them next time. We will be back in the coming weeks with your stories. If you would like your stories aired, please get in touch. If you are listening on a podcast platform, you may find a text link to text the show. Please note we cannot reply to text directly, so please leave your email address so we can get in contact with you. In the description, we will give you other details of how you can contact us. Now, this episode was slightly off our norm due to it being an ongoing personal issue. So we would like to make it very clear that our focus is on the corruption of the CMS, not any individuals using their service. We wish you and your family all the best for 2026 and beyond. Thanks for joining the Evident Conspiracy Files. I'm Mark Mayhew. Question everything, fight for the truth and stay safe. And we will see you again somewhere in time.
And remember, in the grand scheme of things, death is fair. No fees attached. But the CMS, they'd tax the afterlife if they could. Ta-ta souls.
Remember, the Evident Conspiracy Files has exclusive content only available on Apple Podcasts. Available on all devices. I'll see you there, darlings. Now, where did I leave my Lambo keys?